Now let's go through some advanced special cases. So some things that we're going to be taking a look at, which are first horizontal lines, which we've discussed already. So a horizontal line is when we have y is equal to some number a. So we're going to have some value there. So notice if we have y equals -4, that means that at -4 all the way down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, since y is -4 there, it would be a horizontal line located there. X equals -1 would be this one, so it would be located down at that point. So if I were to drag that one down, I can see where that one is. Y equals, oh, sorry, I guess I didn't read that correctly. So y equals -1. And then we have y equals 1. Y equals 1 would be a line drawn right where it goes through the point, in that particular case, 0, 1. So that would be y equals 1. And then y equals 4 would be the line that it goes through right at this point, which is this one right here. So make sure that that's the difference between x and y. So it's important when we're looking at horizontal lines, we know that it's y equals some constant number, some value. And that's going to go right through that particular point on the y-intercept. So that's going to be 0, 4, 0, 4, 0, -1, 0, -1 right there. So we can see what those are. So of course, if we check our answers, which we didn't do, so I did check them correctly. So we can see what those values are in that particular case. This time I'm going to go ahead and reset these activities. Okay, so for the next one, we're going to look at x equals a particular value. That's going to be a vertical line. So for a vertical line, which goes up and down, so notice this one's going up and down. So notice it's located at x equals 3. So we're going to have that one right there. Of course, that point x equals 3, which is really 3, 0. Remember that we always put the x first and the y second. So that's an x-intercept there. This x-intercept is -4, 0, so that would be x equals -4. So when we have a vertical line, it's x equals. When we have a horizontal line, it is y equals. So that's what we're looking at in that case. So that's what we have for our particular values there. So it's pretty straightforward on the ones that we have vertical lines or horizontal lines. Now we're going to get into looking at, instead of tables, we're going to use the intercepts. And this is really not anything different than what we've done before. But notice here, we want to figure out where are the y-intercepts and the x-intercepts. Of course, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So that would be the y-intercept. That would be the x-intercept in that particular case. Of course, that's what we have for both of those. Of course, we can kind of figure out what the values are at the x-intercept. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be 4, 0. The y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember the x is 0, so that would be 0, -4. So we have 4, 0 for the x-intercept and 0, -4 for the y-intercept. So that's what we have for those two values. Now, why is it easy to find? Because x is 0 on the y-intercept and y is 0 on the x-intercept. It makes it much easier to plug those values, the zeros, into the equation to try to find the other values. And that's why it's a little bit easier in that particular case. Okay, if you want to watch a video, there is a video that will show how to graph it, but we're going to do that now. Okay, so for this one, we have, we want to identify our intercepts. 2x minus 5y equals 30. So 2x minus 5y equals 30. I should always check that because I always get negatives wrong whenever I'm copying it over. We want to define the x and the y intercepts in that particular case. So to find the x-intercept, we set y equal to 0. So I'm going to plug in y equals to 0 there. Minus 5 times 0 equals 30. Of course, this goes away. That's just 0. So we have 2x equals 30. Divide both sides by 2. So x equals 15. So one of the points would be 15, 0, right? 15 for the x, 0 for the y. And using that equation again, 2x minus 5y equals 30. We get, in this particular case, now we want to find the y-intercept. So we're going to set x equal to 0. So I have 2 times 0 minus 5y equals 30. So I just have minus 5y equals 30. Divide both sides by negative 5. So I get y equals negative 6. So my other point is x equals 0, y equals negative 6. So there are my 2 points. So 0, negative 6 for the y-intercept, 15, 0 for the x-intercept. So the x-intercept is 15, the y-intercept is 6. You know, they go back and forth teaching you different things there, meaning that sometimes they put the point, sometimes they just put the number. I would prefer that you learn it just using the point as we go through it. So that's that one. So now we know the x-intercept is 15. And so the x-intercept being all the way over here, we can click on the little point here and we can tell it to move this point over here. And then we can pick, I think it was negative 6 for the y-intercept. So it's down here. Let's pick another one. So we have negative 6 down here. We're going to draw a line. We're going to match these points up with these right there. And there's our line. Okay, and we can see our line right there. And that's how we do graphing. So that's how we can go through and check the answers. Okay, I was a little bit off just because I didn't quite hit the 6 there. So I still feel comfortable enough that that's the correct answer. Okay, so that's what we have for that one. I'm going to reset it. We just have one more slide to get through, and then we are done with this particular lesson. So we're going to use the intercepts now to do it. We're going to draw it on another sheet of paper. I'm going to have, or the one that I've been doing. So notice here we have a function y equals 60x minus 500. So if I have y equals 60x minus 500, and notice that this is just a word problem. So it's not much different than problems that we've done before, but notice here it says he spends $500 to lease the gallery. So it's $500 to lease the gallery when we have no paintings. So we don't have any paintings there. So notice if I were to plug in 0 for x, then y would equal 500. So, and we can prove that by going over here. So when x is 0, remember when x is 0, we're looking for the y-intercept. So we have y equals 60 times 0 minus 500. Of course, that disappears. So y, oops, was that minus 500? I think that was minus 500. Yeah, minus 500. So we're trying to figure out how much money we spend. That's okay. I was just questioning the problem at first, so I shouldn't have done that. So that means that we have x is 0, y is negative 500. That's one of my points. My other point is when I plug in 0 for y, I end up with a 0 on the left. And of course, now we know that y is equal to 0, so we're looking for our x-intercept. So I'm going to move the 500 over. The only reason why, and I could move the 500 over or I could move the x over, but I like to keep things positive as much as I possibly can. So 60x, of course, these disappear. And then I divide both sides by 60. Okay, that definitely disappears. These two disappear. Not going to be, 6 does not go into 50 evenly. So we can reduce that because we know that 2 goes into 50 25 times, and we know 2 goes into 6 3 times. So x would equal 25 over 3. So that would be my x value, 25 over 3, and my y value would be 0. Remember that we're looking for that. So if we go back and look at the numbers there, 0, negative 500. So this one's 0, negative 500 right there. That one is not, okay? There is not one there. There's not one there. It looks like it's going to end up having to be A, because that's the only one that goes through 0, 500. None of the other ones go through 0, 500. In that particular case, they do have a point there and a point there, but they don't have a line that's actually drawn in there. So this one would be A. Okay, and that's what we have for our answer. And so now you have 2 checks to do. Those 2 checks will not be due today. Those 2 checks will be due tomorrow. So you'll have some time tomorrow in class to work on those. And that's the end of the video.